I will be brief in my introduction, but as many of you know, throughout the years, Temple Beth Elohim has been blessed with a number of young professionals who begin their careers in our community. And one of them was hired now 11 years ago, a few months out of Vanderbilt University, to serve. I think Rabbi Sapphire was on the phone to hire him, along with Neil Silverston. And it was Sandy Aronson who came to our community as our first community organizer. And Sandy left us for a few years and continued to develop, and then returned as a really gifted professional in our community. And so it's a real honor for him, for me to invite him to speak, I think for the first time, to deliver the sermon. And Sandy has grown to a really extraordinary Jewish professional and a real gift to our community. So I wanted to make sure we could learn from him this evening. So Sandy, the Devar Torah. "11 years is hard to believe."
There are moments when I look at the world and all I see are the cracks, broken systems, broken relationships, broken people. This past year, these moments have been coming more often, where everywhere I look, I am bound to see pain and injustice, division and uncertainty. Some of that I know comes from my role here at TBE, where I work with our passionate members to repair our world. Constant news alerts and urgent emails from our partner organizations keep the world's fractures fresh in my mind. And as I've stepped into this new role of being a father, I find myself thinking even more about the world that my son will grow up in and what I can do, or really must do, to help shape it into a world that can better nurture his dreams and keep him safe. Sometimes the weight of the world's brokenness feels crushing, like it's almost too much to bear. And yet, alongside and despite that heaviness, I feel a sacred obligation, a powerful call deep in my soul, rooted in our tradition, a sacred responsibility that I cannot ignore, to help repair this brokenness, to bring healing and hope where there is despair and injustice. I know that I'm not alone in this feeling. This struggle between the overwhelming weight of what's wrong and the inner drive to make it right, it's not just personal, it's a part of our shared story. It's what we encounter in this week's Parsha, Naso. Naso opens with God instructing Moses how the different Israelite families, in particular the Levite clans, must take on a particular sacred responsibility, taking care of the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the tent of meeting that houses God's presence as they travel through the wilderness. This is the most holy of tasks, as our tabernacle is the place where God's presence is. It is this portable sanctuary that Israelites assembled and disassembled during their generations-long journey from Egypt to the land of Israel. Now, just as our TBE sanctuary is not just the seats that you are in, the tabernacle was not just the tent. It was the spiritual and communal heart of the people. It held holiness within its walls. But just as importantly, it was carried by the people who bore its weight, protected its sanctity, and moved it forward together. But what does it take to take care of the tabernacle? What were these sacred tasks? The Parsha in Naso notes that each Levite clan was given a different part of the Mishkan to carry. The Kohathites were entrusted with the holiest of objects, like the ark, items so sacred they could only be handled once they were covered by the priests. The Gershonites carried the curtains and the coverings, the woven layers that created the walls and entrances of the Mishkan. And the Merarites, they carried the heavy beams and the posts and the sockets, the nuts and bolts that held the whole structure in place. As the Levite clans were given these tasks, their members were also counted, with the Torah text meticulously sharing the populations of each clan. This act of counting connects to the name of the parsha. Naso means to take a census. But naso also means something else, something more elevated. It means to lift up. And there's something really interesting here, because these individuals who were instructed to be lifted up were also instructed to be weighed down by the very pieces of the tabernacle they carry. I love it when the Torah speaks like this in these paradoxes. It challenges us to lean a little closer or dive a little deeper and ultimately use our tradition as a lens for navigating the complexity and nuance of the world around us. So what does it mean to these people to be lifted up? Perhaps it means they're being honored and set apart. Maybe it means spiritual elevation. They're getting closer to God. Or perhaps they found a new purpose through this responsibility. The interpretations are endless, and all are meaningful, and maybe even catered to the individual. But what strikes me most deeply is this. The Torah is teaching us that these Israelites are lifted up because of the sacred burden they bear. Their elevation is not at all hindered by the weight they carry. Instead, it is the act of accepting responsibility, of stepping forward to carry this heavy load that lifts them up in the eyes of God and the eyes of the community. This connection becomes even more meaningful when we look at the Hebrew word for heavy, kaved, and realize it shares the root with kavod, meaning honor or respect. As we shift the vowels around these Hebrew letters, we also shift our mindset, and taking on the heavy responsibility becomes an important choice point. For me, and I hope for us as a community, it is a shift from passively struggling with brokenness to actively engaging with it. When we experience the heavy brokenness of the world only as overwhelming, we actually do ourselves a disservice, because we are not honoring our own ability to take the weight of making an impact. But when we instead choose to step forward and shoulder that weight, the responsibility of repair, we are not only honoring that capacity within ourselves, we are also affirming that the issue at hand is important enough to be worthy of our time and energy and strength. This is naso. This is the lifting up. It is the sacred elevation of ourselves when we choose to bear the responsibility of repairing the world. And this sacred responsibility of tikkun, of repair, calls upon us to step forward, because our broken world needs us, needs each of us and what we have to offer. When we consider the unique tasks of each of the Levite clans, each one carrying a different part of the Mishkan, each role essential to the whole, the responsibilities offer us a vivid metaphor of how we might repair our world. We might be like the Kohathites who are entrusted with the holiest objects. We hold the spiritual heart, the vision, our purpose, and most importantly, our values. In the face of injustice, we live by the principles that guide us. The ethical commitments we refuse to set down, even and especially when it's difficult to do so. We also remind others of what matters most, becoming anchors and examples for those around us. Repair means remembering what is sacred and helping others see it too, allowing our values to lead us forward. We can be like the Gershonites, who carried the woven curtains that made up the walls and entrances of the Mishkan and created the space where holiness could dwell. We are tasked with building relationships, fostering inclusion, and weaving together the fabric of community. And in a time of isolation and polarization, our sacred task is to stitch people back into relationship. Repair means radical hospitality and belonging, being the fabric that holds one another in times of joy and in times of despair. and even restoring the threads of connection that have been torn. We can be like the Merarites, who carried the beams and sockets and posts, the weighty structural framework of the Mishkan. We are called to examine and re-examine and transform the structures that are meant to sustain our society, to ensure that our laws, our institutions, our systems, they treat everyone with fairness and dignity. Repair means confronting the systems that perpetuate inequality and reimagining what justice can look like at its very foundation. Each of these roles is essential in repairing our world. Each is sacred, but no more than the others. And when we choose to take a share of this responsibility, when we step up to repair the world, we are not weighted down, but instead we are lifted up. When those moments hit, like I mentioned before, when you look around and all you see is brokenness, you can feel like the Israelites in the wilderness. In the wilderness, the horizon stretches on with no promise of rest or relief. The road before you is full of cracks of uncertainty and division and a deep sense of powerlessness. And still, in the midst of that wilderness, a truth remains. We are not alone, and we are not without power. The cracks you see are very real. We cannot deny it. But we can also not deny our capacity and our obligation to respond. What part of the Mishkan are you meant to carry? Where can you take on a little bit of the world's weight? May we be lifted by the weight we choose to carry. And may that lifting bring us healing and justice and hope, not just to us, but to the world we're working to repair. Shabbat Shalom.
It's up to us to call ourselves to task, to sing what's good and true, to bring about redemption. It's what we were free to do. For what's the point of being here if we're not moved to change our ways? Aleinu leshabeach. It's time to live our praise. That's going to repeat. Aleinu leshabeach. It's time to live our praise. We are commanded to make a difference in this world. It is our sacred task. I hope you'll join me with that refrain. We are carrying the stories of the ones who came before. What stories will be told of us when we are here no more? We commit ourselves to action. It brings meaning to our days. Aleinu leshabeach. It's time to live our praise. It's up to us to own the vision. We are an answer to a call. It's up to us to live the words we speak for the benefit of all. It's up to us to bow down deeply. There's a broken world to raise. Aleinu leshabeach. It's time to live our praise. Aleinu leshabeach. It's time to live our praise.
If you're able, let's all rise.